student, and welcome back to the Nashville Soundscapes Archive. Today I'm here with Mr. Clifford Koufman. Mr. Koufman, could you tell us a little bit about yourself before we begin this interview?
Sure. I'm a drummer, percussionist, an educator, been teaching African drumming and drum set for 25 years. And in the last 5 years, I got into production, and I also make films and also do visual art. So I like to be creative in lots of different ways.
Awesome. So let's begin.
Okay.
You've studied extensively in Ghana and Guinea under master drummers. When you bring those highly specific, localized West African traditions back to a very Western commercial music hub like Nashville, how do you balance preserving the strict authenticity of that lineage with the reality of playing in a completely different geographic and cultural context?
That's a great question. When I'm teaching, I will teach it exactly as I've learned from my teacher. So, I mean, it's specific to not only the timing, the rhythm, but also even which hand goes when. But when I'm playing creative music, it's really almost like forgetting all of that and just letting those influences be a part of what comes out. So I'm not thinking this is this particular song, this particular rhythm. I'm, when I'm playing, unless it's something that's, I've played in groups with African artists where they want a specific part and I'll play that part, but so a lot of it is learning how different rhythms interact and how, so if I hear someone play this, I have maybe a counter rhythm I could play, or there's infinite possibilities of what could be played with what they're playing.
Okay, that's really cool.
Thanks.
So I guess my next question is, in your teaching, you introduce complex African polyrhythms to students who may only be accustomed to the standard 4/4 backbeat of country music or Americana music. Does the process of teaching these rhythms reveal deeper cultural differences in how Westerners versus West Africans perceive time and groove?
You have some great questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, I was fortunate to have a teacher who was this world famous teacher named Mamadi Keita, one of the greatest djembe players ever. A lot of people would recognize him as that. But he also was a master teacher. He learned how to teach to Westerners. So he would say, here's the downbeat, here's the pulse. He would really break it down in all these ways that a lot of African teachers don't. I mean, I think more do now that they've learned about that. And so depending if you're teaching people who just started growing up in the culture, I think makes a big difference. Hearing music from an early age, or participating in events or cultural events that makes a difference, but and also starting at a really young age. So it can be challenging to teach. I've had many people say, I'm rhythmically challenged, and then they, I say, well, can you, do you walk? And they walk, and that's a rhythmic thing. I think a lot of times people who say they're rhythmically challenged, they're thinking a lot. They're in their head, and there's not time to, when if you're in the head, you're not in the present moment, and music requires being in the present moment. So teaching it can be challenging, but I think if you figure out where is a good starting point for them, and you go as basic as they need, just about anyone can learn it. But I did have the experience when I was in Ghana of some Africans that were rhythmically challenged.
Really, being there.
Yeah, I remember there were some people playing the bell who had a hard time. So, but in general, growing up with it, I think makes a big difference.
Okay. So most of Nashville's music scene is built on a sort of performer versus audience dynamic on a physical stage. However, you facilitate drum circles, which are inherently non-hierarchical and communal. How does the physical circular arrangement of a drum circle disrupt the standard way Nashville consumes music?
I don't know if it disrupts it, but it's I'd say it's just it's having the circle. There's a connection. There's a it's communal, where there's a stage and an audience. There's a separation. So I think Also, a thing about it, so drum circles are different than culturally specific rhythms or culturally specific music. So like when I teach classes, a lot of times I'm teaching culturally specific music from Malinke people from Guinea, or rhythms from the Ivory Coast, or from Mali. But a drum circle is typically all levels. Like there's people who maybe have never played a drum before. There's maybe people who've been playing for many years but never studied. Maybe people who've really gotten deep into some different traditions. So I think it's an inclusive. The drum circle is very inclusive, and the drum also, I think, someone can just walk up to it and get a sound out of it right away. Whereas a violin, it might be a little more challenging, or even the guitar, pressing down the strings and coordinating with here.
It's very accessible.
Yeah, so it's more accessible. But what people don't realize is you can go as deep as you want. You just like the violin, you can get really deep with the intonation and the drums as well. It's a musical instrument. It's tonal. It's not it's not just banging a drum. It's a an instrument that takes constant practice to master. Yeah.
Is there a leader in these drum circles, or is it everyone has their moments?
It depends what kind of drum circle. If it's a facilitated drum circle, then someone would be the facilitator. They lead. They might sometimes use hand motions to say louder. They might break the group into different the group into different groups within the group. There might be different instruments in different sections. But if it's just a drum circle without a facilitator, anyone could be the leader. Someone starts maybe playing something and people follow that. Anyone could start it. So anyone can be the leader for just a community drum circle. Yeah.
All right. So I know you experiment with hybrid drum sets, as the people watching this will see later in the video, when Sean and Mr. Koufman are, they're just improvising. You guys physically blend West African hand percussion with standard Western drum hardware. So from an acoustic and cultural standpoint, how do you reconcile the different tuning systems and the frequencies of these two very different worlds into this one cohesive pocket?
Yeah, I mean, it's so this drum set here, this is, there's no traditional instruments. There's djembes, but it's a machine-made djembe, not a wood handmade djembe. Yeah, this is a conga top. This is called a mondo snare. This is a little snare drum, tom-tom. And I have a snare drum back there, bass drum. So really, for me, I gravitate towards sounds I like, and then find combinations that I like. It could change. I don't always do the exact same setup or the same tuning. I'm not tuning to a specific note or notes, but I am listening to how they sound together, and just really a lot of it over years is preference. Just like picking cymbals. When I first started playing drums, I didn't even know what I liked, so I would pick a cymbal, and then maybe something about it just bothered my ears or something. So over the years, if I found a cymbal I like, I would hold on to it because I liked it. And so kind of the same with the tuning of the drums. So I'm not necessarily tuning them like the djembe. Djembe is typically a goat skin drum with rope that pulls it down. And those are also not tuned to a note necessarily, but more to a sound. So I know if it's too low.
Could you expand on that a little bit? Being tuned to a sound.
Okay, so if let's say one of my drums here, I'll just grab one. This is a djembe that I got in Guinea in 2008, but I've had it redone by Drum Skulls in the United States. This one actually has a cow skin on it, so if it got really low, it might be like boom. But it has this sort of bass on. So I know you can't see it if I do it, so I'm just holding it up. So these are they're tones. You have the bass, the tone, and the slap. So I just played enough that I know if it would. Some people tune them higher. I don't personally. It's not what I like for my ears. But if it's so low, I wouldn't be able to get those sounds so much. It would just be kind of floppy and not really get the sounds.
Okay. That's really interesting. I didn't even know you could like tune those.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can bring up the pitch by making them tighter, the tension tighter. And so that'll bring the pitch up.
Have you ever like broken one of the surfaces?
I've never broken one while playing, but I have been in the room when they have popped, and it sounds like a firecracker.
Firecracker?
It kind of startled me when it happened the first time. Yeah.
So, as someone currently directing a documentary and conducting your own interviews, you are also an archivist. What do you believe are the ethical responsibilities of a filmmaker or researcher when capturing the oral histories and rhythms of master musicians?
It's a great question. I don't know that I'm an archivist. I am interested in storytelling, and I am interested in preserving stories. Like the reason why I started to make Living Music, this film about Rock-A-Lam Bob Moses, and I usually call it a film as opposed to a documentary because my personal aesthetic, or what I like, is I like storytelling, and so like I'm not someone who feels like I'm a reporter where I need to stay out of the story. To me, I feel like to tell the story, I might need to be in it to be able to explain my experience, which could help people understand. So I felt like with this film that I'm making, I felt like I want more people to know about this mentor and friend, Rock-A-Lam Bob Moses, who's a master musician from New York. He's almost 80 years old. He's in his upper 70s, and played with so many of the greats. I mean, some of the greats that there's not really anyone else alive almost who've even played with some of the greats like Charles Mingus and Rahsaan Roland Kirk. But then he was also modern and played with all these modern masters, and he's a master himself. So anyway, so I just felt like I wanted to document it and share his story, because it's an incredible story and a lot of people don't know who he is. Ethically, I feel like the truth is important. I would never change something or edit in a way to make it sound like he was saying something or anyone was saying something that they were not saying. So
is that like a common? Have you seen it happen?
Yeah, but more like not as quality, maybe like TV or something like that, where they, like reality TV, where they, you make it seem like there's all this drama where maybe there is not drama. But yeah, in this case, I mean, we spent so many hours together, and we would put a lav on him. We were recording his voice constantly. We probably have hundreds of hours of his voice, which creates a whole, a lot of work. But what was I going to say about that? So my intention and our intention, I have a small team of friends that we're working on this, is to honor him. And but I haven't thought a lot about it, as an archivist, or as I don't consider myself a reporter. So, yeah.
So I guess my final question, and it's a little bit more about, I guess, these cultures and all these music scenes as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So as Nashville rapidly gentrifies and expands its global footprint, do you see the city's foundational rhythm genuinely diversifying? Or do you feel that world percussion and African rhythms are still compartmentalized in these specific sonic neighborhoods?
So I've been in Nashville for 10 years this month. And it felt very open when I moved here. Yeah, I felt like I felt embraced and felt like people were open to what I'd bring. And I think people keep moving here, and musicians keep moving here from around the world. And so although there is, the most work is within country and rock, there's a lot of people would say it's the singer-songwriter capital of the world. So there's just so much creative energy, and I think a lot of openness. So I think it's just, as it grows, it's just getting more diverse. And I mean, there's musicians from all around the world playing music from their cultures as well here in Nashville. And there are people who want to mix and, collaborate. And so I think it's just going to continue to grow and really be a music mecca in a way that's not just country music.
do you think it's like I've heard from a lot of people that they think Nashville is a very like it's country music versus all the other guys, or do you think I guess more recently, or maybe even in the future, eventually there will be like a consensus where we're all celebrating each other. There's no like one single thing that's the best, or that's you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it just comes down to personal preference. Like there's the Zach Brown band. I've interviewed their percussionists and drums. They have a percussionist who comes from a deep like Cuban percussion family. You know, it goes back, and so I think even within country music, there's the embracing of different. It might be novel sounds or for country music, but I don't look at it as it being any sort of like us against them. I don't play country music. I mean, I have a little bit, but I have friends who do. I have a friend who he's on tour every weekend, but then any chance he can come play, African music, we'll just workshop some African music. He loves to do that. So I'm not sure if that's answering your question, but I think in general musicians are pretty open. I mean, I think country music is its own sort of thing, and there's maybe a culture to it, but I think there's also within that there can be different cultures even within that. So,
yeah. So I guess that's a wrap. Thank you, Mr. Koufman, for your time and your story, and for letting me use your recording space, and it's just been it's been a great honor of mine, and thank you, viewers who are watching this, and have a blessed day.
All right. Well, thank you for doing this. I think this is a really cool project, and I look forward to seeing how it grows and continues.
Yeah, I hope.